You're listening to the Emotional Abuse Recovery Podcast, episode number 74. So today I want to talk about how we always want to get to the end so quickly. We want to fast forward our healing. We want this to move quickly and get out of this nasty swamp or this depression, sadness, anger, frustration, whatever the emotions, like you name it. And we just want it to happen so quickly, right? Most of us, especially because we live in this society of instant gratification, where you push a button and food comes out of the vending machine. You go through the drive-thru and somebody hands you food. You get on your phone and order something from Amazon and it shows up in a couple hours or the next day, right? So we're so used to all this stuff happening right immediately. And then we look at our healing journeys, and for most of us, it's like, oh my gosh, this is daunting. So today, I want to talk about how we can relax, how we can release the sense of urgency we might have about our healing, how we can embrace the journey instead of feeling like we have to force it or push it or make it happen, and what you can do along the way to make it way more bearable and actually even enjoyable. So if you're someone who has felt this way, especially if you've been trying lots of different things and nothing really helps, and you feel like you're on this journey, you've been on it for a really long time, stay tuned because this is going to help. Welcome to the Emotional Abuse Recovery Podcast, a podcast specifically designed to help you heal after a toxic or narcissistic relationship. This podcast teaches you to use your subconscious mind to go from feeling stuck to set free. In here, you will learn how to use the power of your own mind to free yourself from emotional pain, move forward with confidence, and experience the inner peace you deserve in your healing journey after emotional abuse. I'm your host and subconscious reprogramming coach, Allison Dagny. So let's get started. So welcome back and thank you for joining me today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Allison K. Dagny. I am the host of the Emotional Abuse Recovery Podcast, and I bring weekly episodes to you as well as additional episodes on Thursdays in my premiere content for everyone to heal their emotional abuse wounds. So, I am an author of the book When Tears Leave Scars, which is a memoir of my life from when I was married to what I believe to be a covert narcissistic abuser. And after I wrote the book, I decided I wanted to become a coach to help other people heal. Now, I didn't know about the healing methodology that I use today back then, but I'm so glad that I do. The reason why I want to tell you this is because I had tried so many things to heal. I'd spent 20 years being abused. I didn't know it. And I tried so many things. And I finally found something that actually works. The thing about healing is we want our healing to happen quickly. And of course, everybody wants their healing to happen quickly. Like even if you had a physical problem or an illness, you want it to be over quickly. If you break your leg, you have to wait, 8 weeks. I don't know how long it takes to heal a broken bone, but it takes weeks for it to heal. And you're not going to be able to use it during the time that it's healing. So healing things takes time, yes, of course, but more importantly, when you're healing your emotional wounds, it takes effort. It takes practice. It just doesn't heal by itself as you let time pass. And that's the thing that most people don't realize. They just think, oh, I'm just going to sit on this and do some journaling or read some books, listen to some videos, follow social media accounts, and eventually I will heal. Now, my big mistake when I was embarking on my healing journey was believing that it was going to be 5 years of healing for every year of abuse, right? I had read this, I had seen it. Everybody's got these different opinions. And I was freaking out when I heard that because I was like, oh my gosh, 5 years times 20 years, that's 100 years. I'm never going to heal. I'm literally going to die before I'm ever healed. Like that's what I was thinking. I'm 44 years old, so you do the math, right? 100 years, obviously, I am not going to live 100 years. So there was probably a part of me that was like, is this really true? Like, but my abuse felt so deep and the trauma and the wounds were so hurtful that it actually felt like that. It actually felt like this is never going to go away. I'm always going to be triggered. I'm always going to be hurting. I'm always going to be defensive and spinning out, and I'm going to have bad relationships. Like, this was stuff that went through my head all the time, right? So I was determined because I thought, well, at least if I go to therapy, then I can maybe make a dent in this or get me a little relief or have some progress, right? And the other mistake that I made was doing what everybody else was doing, right? The very first thing that I knew I had to do was go to therapy. Now, I'm not saying therapy is wrong or that it was a mistake at all, but I didn't know any better, right? All I knew was and I knew this even from childhood, I'd been to therapy before, even in my adolescence and as a teenager, and therapy wasn't like, there was no sort of stigma against it in my family. So, therapy was like just kind of the natural thing for me to do. So I get out of an emotionally abusive relationship, I need to go to a therapist, right? So that was immediately what I did. And I spent a lot of time with my therapist every single week, going without fail and trying to connect the dots to my past and to my present and to help me. However, I spent so much time doing this, and a lot of it was me venting and me repeating stories of the past that were keeping me in pain. My therapist was very, very good. She even has things like, if you read through my book, she even says things about what I'm thinking and my beliefs, which I didn't know anything about back then. Now I do, obviously. Which is really in the same vein as the work that I do to help people, which is reprogram your subconscious mind. So it wasn't a mistake for me to go to therapy because it was very helpful and it did a lot of good for me. But then I was doing things like reading all the books I could and watching all the YouTube videos that I could get a hold of and listening to all the podcasts that I could. And this actually led me to what I do now. So it was a wonderful thing, and I believe my path brought me to exactly where I needed to be. But the thing that I wanted to share with you about, doing things the way everybody else is doing them, like if somebody says, oh, you need to go join a support group, or you need to read this book, or you need to do this, or you need to go see this therapist, or you need to go see this narcissistic abuse coach, or whatever, right? What the problem is we're so confused and we don't have guidance and we don't know where to go. We're willing to do anything. We're willing to try it all. We're willing to do everything. And the problem that surfaces when this happens is that we are just kind of like throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. So instead of doing that, I would recommend laying out a plan, right? Figuring out what is the course of action that you want to take for your healing journey. Because I say this a lot, without a plan, you're just wandering aimlessly, right? You've got to have an idea about where you want to go, have an established vision of how you want to be feeling and what you want your life to look like, and then take action to get there. Okay? I didn't do this, and that's why I'm sharing it with you, because I just thought, I'm going to go to therapy and I'm going to try to heal, and then my therapist is going to fix me. Like that's truly what I thought. I'll just go every week. I will never miss a session. I will try to do things in between. I will do as much as I can, and my therapist will fix me. That's really what I thought. And it's just not true. I mean, nobody can fix you. You have to fix yourself. And that was a big aha moment for me when I finally started to take accountability, responsibility, ownership, whatever word you like to use, over my emotions, right? Not over my triggers or like what other people did to me. I'm taking accountability. I'm taking ownership for how I feel, regardless of what other people are doing outside of me, regardless of what other people say or think or do. And this was massive. Like this changed everything for me. So doing things this way without a real clear vision, without a plan, of how I was going to approach my healing. I think that the consequences of this were just delayed healing. I think it just continued to delay my progress. There were times, I'm not saying that when I did the things that I did that it didn't help, right? Because I did EMDR and there was a little bit of a shift there. I did meditation and yoga and lots and lots of therapy, reading, things like that. All these things like are contributing to your healing, and they help me too. But I think that it delayed it. And especially if you're someone who's like, I'm so sick and tired of feeling this way, I just want things to happen quicker, then doing things the way that I did it in the beginning is probably not going to make that happen. And I think that a lot of people make this mistake because here we are. We don't know. We're coming out of an emotionally abusive relationship. We are confused, in a fog. We don't know really where to begin, and we just go with something, right? Like, okay, I need to go to therapy. Or, okay, I need to read these healing books. Or, okay, I need to try this or that, right? And again, it's like throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. Now, there is something to be said for following, guidance from people who've been there. And people who say, like friends, oh, when I went through my divorce, I tried divorce care. Or, oh, when I went through my divorce, I really leaned into my church. Or when I was experiencing emotional abuse and I came out of it, I got into a support group in a domestic violence shelter. All of these things, right, are great. But you need to know what is actually going to be the best for you. Do you need somebody one-on-one, or are you better in a group setting with other people who have also struggled with the same things? Are you more of a person who would prefer to just read and digest information, and does that help you feel empowered so that you can move forward? Maybe you're somebody who really wants to involve yourself in the community, and that is helpful. So it really doesn't matter. It just matters about what's best for you, and doing things other people's way is really not always going to be best for you. So one thing that you can always do is rely on your instincts. So when you're coming out of an emotionally abusive relationship and you want this to go faster and you want to heal quicker, then it's really important to trust your instincts, no matter what other people say, right? If somebody is saying to you, oh, you need to go to divorce care, or oh, you need to do this, or oh, you need to do this, or whatever, right? You got to know and sit with it. Does this feel right to me? Does this seem like something that I would enjoy? Does this seem like something I align with? If you are being urged to go to a specific support group, or you're being, there are suggestions of, meeting with this coach or that, or something like that, or this therapist, you shouldn't just do it because someone else did it. Obviously, you should do it if it feels right to you. So really feel into that and trust your intuition or your gut about it, because it's going to be a waste of time if you do something just because somebody else said it worked for them. Okay, so, and I get a lot of my clients giving testimonials, and they talk really highly about the work that I do with them and how they've gotten such wonderful results. And if one of those clients told their best friend about me, and their best friend gets on a call with me and they just don't really feel like I'm the right person for them, or that it's not going to be a good fit, then obviously they should trust that, right? Because who knows, if they got into it, if they're not feeling super aligned, that's not going to work for them. They're not going to be all in. They probably won't put as much effort or anything into it because they're not feeling good about it. So that's my point here. You need to be really, really aware of if this is something that you want to do, if it's something that aligns with you, if it feels good, if it feels bad, right? These are things that is really, really important to take note of. So as I said before, I had been trying all the different things, and I didn't have any guidance. I didn't know anybody who had been emotionally abused. Like, I knew nobody. So I didn't even know emotional abuse was a thing until someone on the internet clued me in. So, I'm just sort of trying to figure out as I go. And part of what happened to me during my healing journey was I love listening to podcasts. And I had found a healing podcast. and it was divorce podcast, and it was something very different from any other of the podcasts that I'd heard, because the other podcasts that I heard were about like almost like coping things, like this is what you need to do, and go visit people that are experiencing the same thing as you, and expand your circle of friends. There's all different kinds of suggestions and ideas, but the reason that I felt like that wasn't working was because I was doing a lot of those things already, and I still wasn't feeling any different. And so when I found this particular podcast, it was all about going within, taking ownership for how you feel, because obviously you can't control the world around you or anybody in it. You can only control yourself. And so this was a big aha moment for me when I heard this, and I listened to this entire podcast twice all the way through because it was so good. And I reached out to the woman who was running the podcast and talked to her about it, and she's the one who offered me to become a coach. And I was really excited about it because since I had done so much listening of her podcast and actually putting into action the things that she was suggesting on it, I was actually getting results for myself. And I couldn't believe it because I didn't have like a person helping me. I guess she was kind of helping me, but not like on a one-on-one level. I'm just listening to her podcast and starting to put these things into action in my life. And it was such an impactful shift for me that I knew that this was the thing for me. So when you know something is for you and when you know it's right for you, then lean into that, right? Go all in, like take it a step further. If you get a lot of healing out of journaling, let's say, and you love to write, and you write and write and write, and you have pages and pages in your journal, right? Maybe writing a book would be something for you. Maybe that's going to be the key to your healing, right? Everybody's got something different. Everybody is not exactly the same, doesn't have the same interest, doesn't have the same, design as far as who they are and their personalities. So it wouldn't be right to paint everybody with the same broad brush. It's important to look at what you need and what your requirements are for healing. Now, I truly believe that subconscious healing is really the way to go for everything because it's backed in brain science. And if you are working with what has the power, which is the 95% of your subconscious mind, which is running the show, then you're going to have greater success than if you're trying to work with the conscious part of your brain, which is only 5%, and that's willpower. So, I really, really believe in this because it's not only helped me with my emotional abuse recovery, but it's helped me with every aspect of my entire life. Like I have a 17-and-a-half-year-old daughter who's about to go off to college, and I have never been a mom of a 17-and-a-half-year-old daughter that's about to go off to college. So now I've got all kinds of new emotions that are coming up. I've got experiences I've never felt before. And so I rely on my subconscious reprogramming work to help me through that, because we don't always know what's going to come up. We don't always know what life is going to bring us. And a lot of times there are surprises and there are events that come up. And so I feel really safe and really secure with this method that I use. And I use it for myself all the time. To help me, one, not only recover from emotional abuse, but also for other things that come up, right? And I've used it ahead of things like court coming up, and I've used it ahead of things where I know I'm going to have to be in like a conversation with somebody that's going to be uncomfortable. And so I bring out my methodology and I use it for that too. So that's the most amazing part about it. So how can we speed up the journey? And how can we make it more enjoyable? Okay, these are the two questions. The first thing for you, if you're thinking about how I was, like, oh my gosh, this is so daunting. It's going to be forever. I'm never going to heal, right? This is going to take forever. I'm here to tell you that is just absolute garbage. It's not true. Healing does not have to take 100 years. It doesn't even have to take 5 years. It doesn't even have to take 3 years, right? No matter how much abuse that you've been through, if you work diligently to reprogram your subconscious mind, you will feel differently within weeks. And I'm not just saying this, there's proof, there's evidence. This has been proven over the last 10 years by the woman who invented this process. She is trained in hypnotherapy and NLP, and she has all kinds of training in the brain. And she trained me, and she's training lots and lots, hundreds of other people to use the same methodology to help people all over the world, which is absolutely phenomenal, because now we're essentially creating a ripple effect and helping people heal, right? And then you're doing it, you're here, you're listening to the podcast, you're probably implementing lots and lots of these tools, and then guess what? Your family sees, your children see, people in your life see that you're making shifts and you're making changes. And then they're like, ooh, and it plants seeds inside of them too, right? So we're healing the world one person at a time. And so if you're someone who feels how I used to feel, it's going to take forever, it really doesn't. Time isn't the healer. The activity, the effort, and the intention that you put behind what you're doing is actually what creates the change. Your brain is neuroplastic, so you can make these changes happen quicker. There's no timeline that says, oh, you have to, experience this much healing time after emotional abuse in order to actually feel different. That's just not true. You can make these shifts by changing the way you think, by changing your perceptions, by thinking of other possibilities. This is all it takes. Now, sometimes it's more difficult to do this on your own because your brain is so used to seeing the same stories and believing the same thought patterns, right? And so that's where somebody like me comes in, because I help my clients do this. I talk to people every single day, and we're always considering other possibilities. So when even my clients are saying, oh yeah, here's another possibility, I'm logging that, right? So then my next client comes along, has a similar belief, and I'm like, well, what about this? So we share, we're sharing these other possibilities. And when that happens, it releases that old tight grip of the belief that's keeping you in pain and suffering so hard and so long. And that's really miraculous, because what's happening is you're actually moving the neural pathway from an old painful way of thinking to something that's more ease and more peace and more love and acceptance and compassion and joy and all these wonderful, wonderful things. So time isn't what helps you heal. Now, time is a factor, right? Because time is passing anyway. However, if you're not doing anything with that time, you'll still be triggered when something happens, or you'll still get angry, or you'll still get frustrated, or you'll still break down in tears at some point in the future, because you've stored that neural pathway and that old memory inside of you. If you don't shift it or change it, the next time something happens down the road, you will still experience the emotion that's being created by the subconscious mind that hasn't been released. So now you might be asking, okay, I hear you, and I'm listening, and I do these podcast episodes, and I take notes, and some of you probably are listening, are my clients, and you're nodding your head. Yes, 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 I know. Now, here's the other thing, is how can you make the journey more enjoyable? Because a journey doesn't have to be treacherous, right? This isn't like Sam and Frodo in The Lord of the Rings. Like, I know it probably feels like that, right? If you haven't seen that movie, it's this treacherous journey that they're on, and it's pretty horrible. And here's the thing, it doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to feel that way. And I want you to be able to enjoy it more, right? Because a lot of times it feels like a roller coaster too. It's like some days we're really, really high, we feel really, really good, and then something happens and we get down in this darkness again. And then something happens and we're feeling better, and then we drop again. And this is normal, right? This happens. It's happened to me, happens to my clients, and there's nothing wrong with you if this happens. all this means is that your mind is changing. Your mind is shifting. Your brain is doing something it's not used to doing. And now all of a sudden you're faced with this task of having to heal yourself from what someone else did. And again, you're the only one that can do that. No one else can heal you for you. No therapist can do it. No doctor can do it. Not the person who hurt you they can't do it either. You're the only one that can do it. And I know for a lot of people, you're like, that's so unfair. Like, why do I have to do all this work to heal? Well, here's what I'll say about that. First of all, shift the word work, right? I don't like that word. I use the word practice. So I get to practice my healing. I get to show up for myself. I get to do things for me, right? I get to take some me time. So think of it in terms of practicing doing something for yourself along your journey. The journey doesn't have to be bad. It doesn't have to be scary. So here's some things that you can do to help you along your journey to make it more enjoyable. Number one is try to find the humor in everything. If you find funny or, I don't know, humorous accounts that kind of make light of the healing journey, or silly ones like JD Milo, his accounts are so funny. They sort of poke fun at narcissism. Things like that can actually make it more enjoyable, because that way you're not just fully focused on the painful aspects of what you're going through, but you're actually lightening it a little bit and getting some laughs out of it here and there. And if you're not familiar with how algorithms work on social media, it's important to know the things that you spend a lot of time on are things that you're going to see more of. So if you're constantly watching things that are sad or depressing or triggering, right? If you see those kinds of things and you spend time on them, you like them, you comment on them, or maybe you even send them to people, the platform that you're on is tracking that, and they're going to show you more of those things. So be mindful of the things that you're looking at, because if it's not things that make you happy or funny or lift your spirits, then you're just going to be seeing more of the other stuff. Something that I like to do when I'm trying to make things more fun is really think about what I enjoy and what I don't. And let me give you an example of this. So I have to write business plans because of the business I have, and that's just not something I like to do. I don't enjoy it. I don't want to get out a Word document or a spreadsheet. I just don't enjoy those things. So what I do enjoy is writing. I like to write. So, and I mean like with a pen on paper. I am an artist by nature, so I like using different mediums and different pens and different pencils and things like that. So to make something more enjoyable that I don't like to do, I think about what I do like to do. So I get out a piece of paper and I get out 5 different colored pens. I use my absolute favorite pen, which is right here. It's called Pentel Wow. It is a ballpoint pen, and it is my favorite pen. And I like the grip on it because it's like a little triangle grip. Anyway, I don't get anything for saying this. I'm just telling you because I love these pens. I go through them all the time. So basically what I'm saying is I get the piece of paper out, I start writing my business plan, and I doodle and I make notes and I use different colors and highlighters, and that makes it so much more enjoyable for me, right? So if you're somebody who's like, I hate journaling, but I know journaling is part of the process, how can you make it more fun? Maybe it's where you're journaling. Maybe it's the location in your home where you do it. Maybe you turn on music while it's happening, or put your earbuds in with some, ocean sounds or nature, something like that, right? What can you do to make the tasks that you're doing more enjoyable? And so it's going to take a little bit of creativity on your part, but this is totally possible, and you can even like get online and ask Chat GPT, right? If you're not familiar with Chat GPT, it's an AI program that is very, very, very knowledgeable. It has a lot of information. And so if you say, hey, I'd like to do this, but it's just not really fun for me, how can I make it more enjoyable? It'll just give you different ideas. Maybe ask people, what do you do? How do you do these things when you're, not really feeling it, or you don't really want to be doing something? How do you make it more enjoyable? Another thing that I do is I eat when I'm doing things I don't like. I like to eat. I like snacking and I like food. And if I'm going to be doing something that I know I have to sit there for a long time, or if I have to, if I'm like, let's say you're reading, maybe you don't really like to read, but you really want to read and educate yourself on things about healing. Get yourself comfortable. Get a bowl of your favorite snack. Get a fancy drink, or make something fun. Like, make it more enjoyable, right? There's so many different things that you can do, but a lot of people just immediately have this sense of dread because they have to do this or they have to do that, right? If you're going to go sit in your therapist office, how can you make that more enjoyable? Bring a blanket, bring your pillow, wear your slippers, right? What can you do to make it more comfortable, to make it more enjoyable for yourself? And these are all things that anybody can do. You just have to think and be a little bit creative. Maybe you want to join a gym, and you know that exercise is going to help your mental health as well as your physical health, but you really do not feel like working out. Maybe you're someone who really thrives in a group. Maybe you enjoy working out in a class. Look for the classes. Maybe you're somebody that's like, I want to work out, but I can't stand working in groups with other people or working out in groups with other people. So maybe you invest in an online program that you can do in the comfort of your own home and make yourself a really wonderful space to do that. Where you have your favorite kind of mats, and you've got some workout equipment, light weights, and maybe some really fun exercise outfits that you enjoy. So there's not one right way or wrong way to do this. It's just about making the journey more enjoyable. And if we can do that and we can increase that part, it's not such a dread or such a heavy feeling like, oh, I have to do this, or oh, I have to do that. And like, no, you get to do it and you get to design it however you choose. The choice is up to you. Now, I can't just leave you guys without talking about the subconscious mind as part of this particular episode. And if the healing journey, as you're looking at it, seems daunting or seems like it's going to be something you really don't want to do, guess what? If you have subconscious beliefs about that, it's going to impact your ability to take action towards the direction of healing, right? So we got to get that out of the way. So let's say that you have subconscious beliefs like healing is hard and I can't do it and I shouldn't have to put this much work in and it's too hard or I'll never be healed. These are all subconscious beliefs. And if these are things that are running through your mind when you're thinking about your healing journey, even listening to this entire podcast, if these things are running through your mind, I'm here to tell you they're just subconscious beliefs that are in the way of you healing. That's it. All we have to do is shift those beliefs. So you might be logically saying, I know I need to go to therapy. I know I need to invest in this healing program. I know I need to start working out. I know I need to, right? Insert anything that you want. The brain is designed in such a way that it believes whatever you tell it. So if you're telling it healing is hard and I can't do it and it's too much work, guess what? Your brain says, yep, you're right. And then what happens? You don't take action. Maybe you can muster up enough willpower out of that 5% conscious part of your brain to get up and go for a walk or to make the call to the therapist. That's great. These are wonderful things, right? That willpower sometimes is needed for us to do that kind of thing. However, it's not going to last. It's not going to be a long-term fix. The thing that's going on in your subconscious mind is what's driving the emotions and the behaviors. So if you're someone who's like, oh yeah, I do find myself saying these things, and I do hear myself complaining about the healing journey and how horrible it is and how difficult it's going to be and how I'm never going to make it, right? I'd really encourage you to start shifting that. Start challenging that. Do you see other people out there who are committed to their healing? Does it look hard to them? Is there been anything you've done in your life that was difficult that you could compare to something like this?
right? Did you ever start a really difficult new job? Hey, how about, have you ever been a parent, right? Nobody ever gave you instructions on how to do that. You just all of a sudden have a baby, and now you got to learn how to take care of it and make sure you don't screw the baby up forever. Nobody tells you how to do it, but you figure it out, right? The thing is, if you are letting your subconscious mind run the show without question, and you want to embark on healing and make your healing journey more enjoyable and make it move faster, this is going to be where you have to start, right? Because you can do all the coping in the world. You can do all the exercises, all the yoga, all the this, all of that, right? You can do all that stuff. But if you're not getting to the source, nothing's going to happen. Absolutely nothing. So if you'd like my help, if you want somebody to be your guide, that's what I do. I don't give advice to people. I don't tell you what you need to do. I tell you to tell me what you want to do and how you want to be feeling and how you want to be behaving, and then I help you get rid of all the stuff that's in the way of that. That's it, right? So this one person could come to me with a very similar circumstance as someone else, but have two totally different outcomes. And that's totally fine, because this is your life. Nobody gets to control your life but you. So you can schedule a free call with me from the link in the show notes if you're interested in chatting with me to learn more about subconscious healing and rapid reprogramming, to see if it's the right fit for you, if it's the right thing for your healing journey, so that you can start your recovery, make it quicker, and make it more enjoyable. Thanks for joining. I'll talk to you next week.
Thank you for being here with me today in the Emotional Abuse Recovery Podcast. I hope you found value here with me. If this podcast episode was helpful to you, I'd love for you to hit subscribe and leave me a review. My goal is to help you go from feeling stuck to set free. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook, and you can check out whentearsleavescars.com for more resources and information to help you with your own emotional abuse recovery. Until next time, here's to believing in